Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
Absolute format is the best way to own this store. Time to empty those wallets and fill those shelves.
How's it going, all you minties? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And join me today for my overview of these latest collected editions from IDW. So, join me. And welcome back, everybody. What we have here are some latest collected editions from IDW. Couple of Ninja Turtle books, but so different, yet so similar. And you'll see what I mean when I open these up. And I love this collection. This is the best of Godzilla Volume 1, but it's not just Godzilla we're going to be talking about. I am going to be putting timestamps in the description of the video so you can jump around in case you're curious about one or two of these. But before you do, don't forget to smash that like button. It goes a long way for us here on the channel. Very small thing you can do, and thank you to all of you that are watching and have liked and shared our videos. Alright, we are going to kick it off with Stan Sakai's latest Usagi story that is so important, yet features the Ninja Turtles in this big crossover. Alright, so here we have the latest team-up of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Usagi Yojimbo, and this is the one that's being published by IDW, but does feature the Eastman and Laird characters of the Ninja Turtles. And it's been a long time since they've had a crossover. This is being published in color, by the way. Story and art and lettering, of course, by Stan Sakai. And then editorial assistant, Nicolas Nino, editor Scott Dunbier. And then the design is by Sean Lee. And you do have the cover right here. This is cover 8. The other covers will be in the back by Stan Sakai and Emi Fuji. And the entire book is in color. It's 144 pages, and this one here retails for $21.99 and collects the entirety of the miniseries. This is a really interesting miniseries because I've read all of the Ninja Turtle crossovers with the Turtle, with Usagi Yojimbo, and the last one I think was in 2017. But this time around, this one came out in 2022. It's important because the events that are happening here happen 20 years in the future of Miyamoto Usagi's world. So if you've read the Usagi Yojimbo Senso, you know that's kind of like the tail end of Stan Sakai, or where everything is heading. But it does have a narrator, so you don't know exactly if it's the truth or not. Whereas this one doesn't. This one just states, that this is when it's taking place, and this is when the Ninja Turtles are getting involved. So it's been a while since they've seen Miyamoto Usagi. And what is happening here is we do have, like I mentioned, 20. So if you haven't read it, maybe some minor spoilers, because we are looking 20 years into Usagi's future. Okay, just in case. All right, so what is happening in this particular crossover is we now see Lord Noriyuki here with his band. And like I mentioned, 20 years into the samurai's life in the future. And Usagi is now his general. We do see Tomoe. And what's happening is that there's this huge battle between Noriyuki and Lord Hikiji. And you're going to see familiar faces, and you're going to see a lot of stories come to a close, which is surprising because it feels like this is so important. Like a lot of these characters that got together, you're going to see some deaths in here to some characters that have been well established if you've been reading the Usagi Yojimbo saga for decades. And I didn't expect them to meet their end in this particular book, especially being a crossover with the Turtles. So I won't go into spoilers, of course, about who dies or anything, but just know that there's this huge battle between Lord Noriyuki and his band, and also Lord Hikiji. Now, when they're about to go into battle, they stumble upon a village where a villager's like, hey, can you all help us? Yes, we do have some problem with the Kappa that keeps taking people underwater and killing them. And Usagi takes it upon himself and Tomoe to go and kill this kappa. So they decapitate him in the very traditional Stan Sakai way of murdering people. I love when he uses the skull as a form of like, oh no, that dude's dead. That's how you can tell. Meanwhile, his cousin and his well, I don't want to spoil who this other character is. So I'll just say somebody that's also related to Usagi are hunting down for Kappa. And speaking of Kappa, we have the Turtles in present day. They're fighting this character named Dr. Werewen. And Dr. Werewen keeps losing his battles against them. So what he decides to do is make a time machine, a time portal, if you will, to travel back when he can conquer the world without having to deal with the Turtles. So what do the Turtles end up doing? Well, hey, why don't we go after him? Right? We know how to work this thing. So they do. They go after Dr. Werewen and end up again in the world or time of Usagi Yojimbo. Unfortunately, they get mistaken for Kappa by people that don't recognize them. There's another cover right here, and there's misunderstandings with beautiful spread pages like this by Stan Sakai. And of course, Miyamoto steps in and says, wait, I know these guys. So they all recognize each other. And as it turns out, the Turtles came here, unfortunately, too late because Dr. Werewen actually came back 25 years before this story and has already established his army of like robots. So Lord Noriyuki can't get involved. He doesn't want Usagi to get involved. So the Turtles are kind of on their own, but Usagi's like, look, I'm going to help no matter what. And he does. So there's huge battles that take place, and you can find out for yourself who ends up dying here, who ends up together, surprisingly, out of honor or out of love. And what happens to a lot of these characters. You're going to see a lot of returning characters in these pages. Now, it's interesting because if you're coming from the world of Ninja Turtles and you're not familiar with Usagi, some of this stuff is going to be a little bit confusing. Like, it's not going to matter who's with who or who dies through. Well, maybe it will matter who dies through here because you do get attached to these characters. But if you're looking at pages like this, you're going to be like, okay, which one's Usagi? And I can kind of see that if you are coming in from the world of Usagi and have never read a Ninja Turtles comic, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, okay, I think that's Leonardo. So I completely understand coming in from different angles and being a little bit confused. But Stan Sakai establishes who these characters are really quick. I enjoy the story. I cannot believe an important story like this is being told in a crossover with the Turtles. All the way in the back, you do have all 5 issues, the connecting variant covers. That starts with this one right here. And this is all done by David Peterson, who, of course, is known for his mouse guard. 144 pages, all in color, and all of it collected in this beautiful book with this. It's got this embossed cover right here of the Turtles. See how they're glossy and the rest of the background is flat? But that is Usagi Yojimbo, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Werewen. Best of Godzilla, Volume 1. If you've never read a Godzilla comic, this is such a nice treat right here. This book collects just different comics, not even the full run of the comics, that feature the character of Godzilla. It is $29.99 and it has 368 pages. And what do I mean by not just the character of a Godzilla? Well, if you can see from the cover here, we do have Mothra, King Ghidorah, and Rodan. So if you're a big kaiju person that is coming in from the movies, this is going to be a lot of fun. So you've got it broken down here by the characters. So you have 4 Godzilla stories, 4 King Ghidorah stories, 4 Mothra stories, and then 3 Rodan stories. And each one written and drawn by different creators. You have people here like Cullen Bunn, and you have Joshua Falkov, and James Stokoe. So you are going to see some Stokoe art in here. And again, it's separated into chapters like this. You have Best of Godzilla right here, and collecting the Godzilla Legends. My gosh, I love that cover. I wish this was an oversized format, but it is a trade paperback. But it is a nice economical way of buying these stories if you've never read any of the comics. So we start off with this character right here. This is Bryson Allworth, and he's kind of telling his life story. He's an adventurer. He's being interviewed. And in his 50s, when he's retired from adventuring, he gets approached by these men in black almost that want him to climb Godzilla. They want him to go on the top of Godzilla and gather tissue from there because they want to examine Godzilla in a closer way. And he's like, I'm 50 years old. I've been retired from that, but I can't say no. I cannot turn away from an adventure. Let's do it. This is the one that's written by Bobby Curnow, and Dean Haspiel is the artist on this particular book. So that's what this is. This is a just hodgepodge collection. In this particular story, this adventure does eventually get to climb on the top of Godzilla as Godzilla's fighting giant monsters. And he gets to find out what Godzilla is like through being on top of Godzilla and seeing how Godzilla sees the world. He starts to admire Godzilla, but also fears him and understands him in a way that no one else could. I really like the ending of that. I've actually talked about James Stokoe Godzilla in Hell, but this is just the first issue, which is also collected in the James Stokoe Godzilla Half Century War Deluxe Edition. Or, I'm sorry, it's just Godzilla by James Stokoe. But that is collected in there. Beautiful James Stokoe artwork. And we're just going to flip a little bit more through here. This is the time travel Godzilla story. There is a Godzilla versus Godzilla, which we've seen before. But you've seen him fight Mechagodzilla and Space Godzilla. But this one here has him fighting Godzilla, the Matthew Broderick Godzilla, which is really interesting. And then the next book right here is... the next chapter is the Best of King Ghidorah. Now, even though they are the best of Mothra, Rodan, and Ghidorah, they still feature Godzilla. It's pretty much their fights with Godzilla, and told by different creators and artists. And let me see, this is the one by... There is one here. I believe this one here. This is the Godzilla Kingdom of Monsters. This is the one that's written by Eric Powell and Tracy Marsh, but it's drawn by Victor Santos. And it's actually kind of cute. This is from the Kingdom of Monsters number 8. Then we have the Half Century War, issue number 5. I strongly suggest getting that. If you like this chapter in here, go and get the Half Century War while it's still in print. It's available in hardcover. Then we have some Best of Mothra stories back here. Again, that feature the character of Godzilla, but primarily focuses on Mothra and told by different creators and writers. Cataclysm is actually, this one here, is written by Cullen Bunn. And you have the colors and the art itself by Dave Watcher. And they've worked together before in the past, but again, you will see Godzilla through these pages, not just Mothra. And the last chapter that's in here is the Best of Rodan. So I like the way that this is broken up. It's not just Godzilla. Actually, this one here, if I'm not mistaken, is by Duane Swierczynski, who, of course, had written Punisher and had written Cable for Marvel Comics. So that's the first time I read a Godzilla story by him. Definitely a book for people that want a taste of what Godzilla comics can be like. Not just focusing on the humans, but also focusing on the kaiju. And, of course, wonderful and beautiful artwork that you're going to be seeing through here. And in the back, you do have some art in black and white and some variant covers. Now, you probably saw some variant covers in between the chapters, and they do that, but you have beautiful Arthur Adams here in black and white and James Stokoe. And again, $29.99, 368 pages. Next up is The Last Ronin. However, this is the director's cut. I've done an overview of The Last Ronin Deluxe Edition from IDW. This one here has 224 pages, while the director's cut has 296 pages. To kind of give you an idea of just how much thicker it is, here it is on the spines. But yes, this is the director's cut, including the entire story here, but adding a bunch of extras. Nothing really new to the actual story pages, but the extras, like the original idea that Eastman and Laird had. This one here retailing for $29.99, while the director's cut it retails for $49.99. And this one here is as tall as an omnibus, just to kind of give you an idea of how tall it is. Now, all of this is collected in this director's cut. However, these two deluxe editions are not in here. This is the Lost Years miniseries, and these are the covers. Like, there is a ton of covers, and they don't all make it in here. I mean, all of this is just covers of The Last Ronin. So that is something to keep in mind if you're building your deluxe edition of The Last Ronin. I don't know if there's going to be an omnibus once it's all said and done collecting everything, but I did want to kind of give you an idea of what's collected in here. So we're going to crack it open and talk about the stories in there. Okay, so now that we took a closer look at it and compared it to the original Last Ronin release, let's go ahead and open this one up. You have some blue end sheets there. The Last Ronin. I'm just going to go ahead and say, if you haven't read The Last Ronin, I am going to be talking about some spoilers from The Last Ronin. I can't help it because of the extra. So just in case, spoilers moving forward for this book. If you haven't read it, go and read it yourself. Or if you want to go and check out the overview of the original one, I tell you when the spoilers are there too. But just in case, because I've already done an overview of this, and I feel like I'm going to be repeating myself a lot if I talk about the story. So you have the story here by Kevin Eastman, Peter Laird, and Tom Waltz. The script by Kevin Eastman and Tom Waltz. And then the pencils by Esau Escorza, Ben Bishop, Isaac Escorza, and Kevin Eastman. And the layouts by Kevin Eastman. Colors by Luis Antonio Delgado, and the lettering by Sean Lee. Here's your introduction by Tom Waltz. So what is this story about? It is the story of revenge. It is the story of one last turtle in the future. And I've always stressed the fact that it doesn't matter if you're coming into the story from the animated series, if you're coming into the story from the TMNT IDW era, the Archie era, or the Mirage era, Image era, it doesn't matter. This is the definitive ending to the Ninja Turtles as by the creators. So it is a revenge story because one turtle remains. The rest of the brothers are dead. Splinter's dead. Casey Jones is dead. And this turtle's just going out and trying to destroy the Hand. He's back in New York. He's going after Hiroto, the man responsible, or at least he holds responsible, for killing his brothers and his father. And as you find out at the end of the first issue, the last turtle that is alive is Michelangelo, using new weapons, using his brother's weapons. His whole demeanor has changed. His whole attitude has changed. He's no longer the party dude. He is rough, and it's like Dark Knight, right? Like the original Dark Knight where Batman comes back. But he does find out that April's still alive. She has a daughter named Casey, and together she wants to go and help take out the Foot, or what's remaining of it. And there are flashbacks here to tell exactly what happened to his brothers, how he survived the big battle, and how he comes and plans to get his revenge. But since I've talked about this enough, you can find out exactly what happens yourself. This big chunk right here, this big blue sector, is nothing but extras. So you have the cover extras right here. Again, not all of the covers like you're going to find in that covers collection, because there were a ton of covers. But you do have this. This I found so interesting. You have the original story idea. These are the notes by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. And to me, for a collection like this is the most important thing you can have. While you're not adding anything to the story, you're not adding extra panels, pages, or pictures, this is what I love to see in a special edition. Director's cut to me always means like, oh, this is the vision the director wanted to do, so that's why they added these pages. It's not what happens here. It's called the director's cut because this is what Eastman and Laird originally had planned for the ending of their Ninja Turtles. All the way back, like you can see the notes when they were originally written. Some of the early concept sketches here done by Eastman and Laird when they were still working together, when both of them thought they were going to do the story in the 80s. And it took this long to tell the story. Now, later on, you are going to see some concept art here from 2020, you know, when the story was actually being developed, and how the story was able to change. Some original ideas for some of the characters, how they were going to look, and characters that were going to be part of the big story that did not make it into the final pages of this. Maybe they might make it in the Lost Years, or the new ongoing series that's based on The Last Ronin. Looking a lot like Elektra there, Karai, but makes sense, the Sinjas. So if this is your kind of thing, if this is your kind of extras you like to see, this is the book to get. If you haven't gotten either one of them, this is the book to get. I did want to point out the fact that the story is no different. Look at that. That's so awesome. Like original ideas that just never happen in the story. Because, you know, you have so many ideas when you have a big story like this that unfortunately not everything can make it. But what I was saying is, I did want to point out that this is what's extra. And if you have the original hardcover, it's up to you whether you want to upgrade or not. Because, some people are like, I don't need this kind of extra stuff. Some people love extra stuff like this. So, just wanted to make sure I'm as thorough as possible. The paper stock is printed in this thick, glossy paper with minimal bleed through. Love that. And 296 pages. It is sewn binding. And it lays over rather well. Just like the original printing, but you've got a lot more pages in here. And that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing any of these books, don't forget to check out our sponsors.
If you're in Europe and you're interested in buying these books, definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices, flat shipping rate of €12 for all EU countries, emails answered within 24 hours, waltscomicshop.com, and you can use the code Near Mint Condition at checkout and get free shipping for all EU countries with your first order over €40. That's Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. Ding!
CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget, the CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of these books. Let me know in the comments down below if you are picking any of these up, if you're following the Usagi Yojimbo in color from IDW, if you've never read a Godzilla comic, and if you already have The Last Ronin, are you going to update, or I guess upgrade, not really upgrade to this, or are you collecting all the Last Ronin hardcovers, or you're hoping one day when it's all said and done, they'll do an omnibus. If you have any questions, leave them down below. Don't forget to smash that like button, and check us out on Patreon and Spreadshop. The link to those websites are in the description of the video. That's it, everybody. Stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.